All right. Can we all hear?
Yes, sir.
I think we can. Oh, I got to unmute Robbie Fox. I didn't unmute Robbie. Now Robbie's unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Now we
Gotcha.
can.
Hell yeah.
Gonna toss my headphones on here. All right. Well, I guess we picked a good one to start doing these. This is a full-on spoiler breakdown of the latest episode of WandaVision. We'll do this for about 30 minutes. We'll take some questions. So leave some questions and comments. This will also air in full on YouTube afterwards. It'll be uploaded to YouTube. So yeah, we're going to talk kind of everything here about the episode, what went down, and the ending, and what we can expect. Because I'll tell you what, holy shit! Immediate thoughts. We'll start with KenJac. Immediate thoughts to this episode because this was a wild one.
I really like this episode. I think so far probably my favorite of the season for a variety of reasons. But I think just start off with the 90s, 80s kind of Full Housey feel to it, and the intro song and spiel and theme, whatever you want to call it, that they had for this, that they designed for this one was great. Love the vibes from that. I love the kind of the lyrics, right? Because the lyrics obviously apply to the show. I think that this is like the one episode where everyone really got to display their acting chops. Like Paul Bettany got to be something more than just like sort of a vessel for this one. Really got to be Vision, be 3D. Same thing with Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, obviously. And even like across the board in the S.W.O.R.D side of things, everything was great. I really liked it. And the ending, obviously the ending, fucking crazy, but we'll go back and talk to that in a little bit.
Clem?
I think KenJac said it all. I think the reaction on Twitter has said it all. This has officially become a first, as soon as you wake up, watch it or risk having something awesome be spoiled for you. That's where the Mandalorian kind of hit, I think, once Baby Yoda came into our lives. And I think the last 2 episodes of WandaVision has kind of done the same. They need to move this shit to Saturdays. It's just not fair to people who have like real lives. Like we live fake lives and we can kind of like get away with it. But I feel so bad for people who like are in the real world and can't just fucking bang out which again, like, what was it, 40-minute episode? That was a twist too. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not ready for this. It was a lot, guys.
I
Robbie,
echo everything you
start.
guys are saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it. It was the first episode of WandaVision that truly felt like an MCU movie to me. Like this, there were those moments where, you know, she walks out and talks to S.W.O.R.D, like her S.W.O.R.D, where you go like, oh my God, like I could see me sitting in the theater watching this. And just like anyone who doubted Kevin Feige, what were you thinking? When was the last time this guy did anything that was even slightly bad? Come on.
Yeah, that's true. That's been kind of my thing from the start. Is I think a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people kind of looked at the first couple episodes and they wanted. Okay, if you didn't like it, you didn't like it. That's one thing. But I think people are like, I kind of like it, but like not a ton is happening. It's a slower burn, and I think people need to remember it's a series now. This is not a Marvel movie. You know, we're used to sitting down with a Marvel thing and getting A to Z and getting everything we want right away. That's just not going to happen in a series, and it shouldn't happen in a series. It should be a little different. It should be mysterious. And I think that's what we got, because now, like, you see this paying off. Like, those first episodes worked the way they did, and now it pays off to this continuously, like, long, bizarre thing. And now we're to a point where, I mean, so much has opened up. Again, this is the last time I'll say full-time spoilers. I had everyone bring an Easter egg and then maybe a theory. So I'll let everyone start off with Easter eggs, and we'll cover the ones that aren't missed. I'll do the first one off the top. I have to go with the intro. The intro, Family Ties and Full House intro. I'm not Full House. Family Ties and Growing Pains were the big nods. The intro. It's the 80s, 90s episode. I love Growing Pains growing up. Clem, this probably skews a little more towards you because you're the oldest of the bunch. KenJac a little younger. Robbie is basically an infant in comparison to Clem. But yeah, so I knew this. You picked up on this one pretty quick.
My wife and I were watching it together this morning, and it was a Wayback Machine. We were like, you could wipe the nostalgia from our faces. And we said Family Ties, Growing Pains with the baby pictures. And then, like you said, the Full House when they're running in the fields, that kind of a little Full House vibes to it too, which could be the 90s version of the sitcom I could see coming up next. But I mean, you nailed it. My Easter egg actually goes off of that, but I'll just say my Easter egg real quick, and you go back to, I'm sure you can break this all down. Sit, Ubu, sit. She says, sit, Parky, sit, just like sit, Ubu, sit, which was the end of the Family Ties. So it kind of tied into that.
All right, that's a good Easter egg. I love the nostalgia stuff. That's the other thing too. It's like the WandaVision stuff is cool. People have like fans of old TV and like these classic sitcoms. There's so many little nuggets here. KenJac, what was yours?
Mine, I'm going to go a little deep because I have some that I think were pretty obvious, like maybe not even Easter egg level, but like nods. Like I'm sure someone will probably have the Lagos paper towels in a minute. Mine is one that's a deep dive, one where I noticed it and I was like, this number sounds familiar, and that is Sokovia Accords 36B. I don't know if this is an Easter egg, but I'm kind of sure it is that. So basically, they say that the taking Vision's body right was a violation of Sokovia Accords 36B. And I was like, this number sounds familiar. I went and looked it up. And so in the movie Civil War, Thunderbolt Ross, he gives Tony Stark exactly 36 hours to bring in Cap and Wanda and all of those people. He says, you have 36 hours to get this done. I don't know if this is specifically the reference, but 36B seems a little bit like, there's something there. I don't know why. I mean, couldn't find the actual, what the code was, so I think that might have been it.
Kind of surprised the Sokovia Accords just aren't fully online. Maybe they are.
Yeah, right.
Found it, but I figured they would be. Robbie, what's yours?
Up every page.
Yeah.
So mine, I have a tiny one, and then we'll talk about the Lagos because we haven't talked about that. I figure it's a big one. We can get into it. A tiny one is that Growing Pains had a spinoff called Just the 10 of Us, and it starred WandaVision director Matt Shackman. So I didn't even realize this guy had some sitcom roots, which now makes a ton of sense. Obviously, he got to do an homage to one of his own shows, or at least the show that his show spun off. And the Lagos paper towels, I feel like, are the biggest Easter egg of the episode. We would be remiss not to mention it right up the front. That was Civil War for those that
got
don't
it
remember.
somewhere.
Wanda
there we go.
There they are. And man, they did such a good job with it. It looks like the Bounty versus the other leading brand. Like,
and
whatever.
It looks like blood too, which is kind of the accent that they had in Lagos.
The way they did the beginning of Civil War in this, like we kind of expected it. Maybe we would get some of her trauma in that, but I loved it.
Yeah, and so all the products are clearly things in her life that have absolutely fucking killed them. Or at least Wanda's like life. You had the first one, you had the Strucker, you had Stark, obviously that her and Petro hated Stark because you blamed Stark for her family's death. Then you had the third one, the Hydra soap. Now you have Lagos. So like we'll see like these more commercials. You got to figure Thanos probably gets a product at some point. Probably going to be an Ultron thing. It's a lot of. Yes, people have noted Robbie's internet is laggy. He's in a hotel. Yes, we're very aware. Robbie's in a hotel, so just deal with it for this week. All right, let's run through ones that we haven't mentioned yet. Also, we had to talk about now we just completely lost Robbie. We got to talk about Vision as a baby, because Vision as a baby was just insanity. Look, this just looks. I couldn't stop laughing.
It's so funny,
but
it's just hilarious to look at.
He looked like the kid Grinch.
Yeah,
he looked like. Yeah. Oh my God. Another one, Monica Rambeau. They talked about her readings being off. Little nod to her probably becoming Photon at some point. She's gonna have those. She probably got those powers. That's probably
entry, yeah.
You'd have to figure she got her powers through Wanda throwing her out of the hex. We have another one. We have. They mentioned Scarlet. Like, she has no nicknames. They said. I actually thought they were going to say Scarlet Witch. I kind of got the chills for a second, like when they said Boba Fett again. And I was like, oh shit! But they're going to wait. I imagine. So this screenshot is from the trailer, and there's a what seems to be a Halloween episode, and that looks kind of 90s-ish. I bet we get that very soon, if not next week.
Ooh. Wait, before we get to the next one, speaking of, did you notice how I forget the lead guy of S.W.O.R.D, he was calling Vision the Vision? I think that's the first time I can remember them calling him the Vision and not just Vision.
Yeah, I actually didn't think about that. Yep. We haven't heard Scarlet Witch yet, but I assume we're close. Another Easter egg, we saw her they said they're breaking into the S.W.O.R.D facility. As KenJac said, violating the Sokovia Accords. Vision didn't want to be resurrected, which is very interesting because he don't be resurrected and uses the weapon, but what the fuck was S.W.O.R.D doing with him?
Mm-hmm.
Right, like that's kind of their whole point, right? Like they're gonna weaponize beings, whether it's mutants or Vision. So Wanda breaks in. Some people noted that she might have been wearing different clothes in this scene from when she leaves the hex, but I did a side by side, and I'm pretty sure she's wearing the same thing. It's her Avengers Endgame costume, so I don't know if that's completely true. Another one, the dog.
Sparky.
Yep, Sparky. The dog is in some of the WandaVision, the Wanda and the Scarlet Witch and the Vision. Comic and graphic novel material. We saw the dog. We'll get to the dog in a minute. I saw kind of a cool comment a moment ago when we talk about theories about the dog and all the animals we've seen. They mentioned how Wanda probably would have kicked Thanos' ass until he brought. What did she say? I forget what she said, but until Thanos had them fire on everybody.
He blitzed, right? Somehow
blitzed. Yes. Yes, exactly. Another Easter egg. Was that Reed Richards? Who was she talking to? She was talking about aerospace tech. Someone else that could potentially be someone else from Fantastic Four. The Marvel Studios Reddit said the Spanish translation alluded to it potentially being a female, though. I know a lot of people are saying it's Reed Richards because that's, I think, kind of the assumption. And the Fantastic Four are very tied into some of the theories about the villains of this show, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, some people think it's Reed Richards. I actually thought we might hear the name, but Fantastic Four, we already know is going to be a movie. It's being made by the same director of the Spider-Man franchise. So that seems to be the thing that could be coming into play soon. We saw that there's proof you can leave the hex and things stay the same. So I have to think we just could get Vision back as Vision after this is all said and done, because her clothes left. They were made of Kevlar. They morphed from her Kevlar vest. We saw the Lagos thing. We already mentioned that. I like the Easter egg of the credits. Clem, figured you probably really thought that. I actually thought of you immediately, Clem, when the credits rolled and they started talking over the credits. That seemed like the most like Marvel Clem crossover possible.
And having like the parents yell at each other, which is something you would never see in like a sitcom, and they're like screaming, and it's like every kid's worst nightmare. But you would never see that in a sitcom. So that was something.
That was a great use. Like that's one of those things they keep talking about. Like, oh, the sitcom stuff will make sense. And like you see it now tying in more and more, and it really is playing all together. And then the big one, we see Pietro comes up to the door as Wanda's explaining that she's not controlling everything, and like she didn't make the doorbell ring. And we see it's not Aaron Taylor Johnson, and that it's in fact Evan Peters Quicksilver from the X-Men. And there is an interesting note, because I actually just got a tweet about this from somebody saying, how are they going to explain the recasting? They said, which I love the way they explained it, like, holy shit, they recast Pietro, which is just, that is perfect. That is so well done. But the subtitles for it apparently are like now we really lost Robbie. Robbie will be back. The description, the visual description said it's Pietro from the X-Men. So it's not even, this is not it's not really a recasting. This is what I think many have assumed. This is him ripped from another universe, from another dimension. This is just, she broke open the multiverse. Audio description. That's the right word. Thank you. She broke open the multiverse, or someone did. The villain, maybe it was her unknowingly, and just ripped over the X-Men's Quicksilver, her brother. We had known he was cast, but your reaction, both of you, I was pretty fairly blown away, to say the least.
I was so fucking confused. It was 6 a.m. I had just woken up. I just wanted to get it done so I didn't get spoilers again. And then I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm like, is my brain tricking me? I'm trying to explain the things to my wife. We're multiversing, motherfuckers. We're here. The multiverse is here. We don't got to wait till Spider-Man anymore. It's arrived.
Exactly. This is now going to be the jumping off point for the multiverse. And this is going to be like, this is where it all starts for not even just the future Marvel shows, but for all the now Marvel Universe movies that are going to be using the multiverse, like Spider-Man 3 and like many, many more, Multiverse of Madness. And I think that ties into my theory for the future, but I don't know if we're getting to theories just yet, are we?
No, we'll get to theories, I guess. Well, we can kind of tie that. Like, what are your theories? What's your thoughts? And drop your theory in the comments. If you've already done it and I've missed it, just drop it again, because the chat has kind of moved up a bit. But that's kind of my view, is that I think the villain, the big bad, whoever it is, I know Mephisto or however you pronounce it. Sorry, I don't know proper way to pronounce it. That could be it. Maybe she sold her soul to this character, which Mephisto, if you don't know, he's been in Marvel movies before. He's played by Peter Fonda in Ghost Rider. So he's technically been not in the MCU, but a lot of people assume Mephisto, who's essentially the devil in Marvel, is heavily involved as the villain. And let me pull up. I have a picture of him so you can see what he looks like. Nope, that's the twins. There we go. And so we've seen him before. He saved the Fantastic Four. So Doctor Strange has saved the Fantastic Four from Mephisto. He's very involved with a lot of the characters, because Doctor Strange is involved with a lot of rumors about this show, because Wanda's going to be in the next Doctor Strange movie. There's so many things that tie together. It just kind of makes sense that this is the character. And people have mentioned that, like, maybe Wanda sold her soul to get her brother back, and then he's like, well, fuck, he's dead, and he ripped out a brother from another dimension. Like, that would be kind of the craziest way. But I feel like we've said for a while now that, like, this is the only way that makes sense to introduce the X-Men, right? It's like you kind of have to bring them in. You can't just have mutants become a thing in the year 2023 or 2024, whatever year this is set in. Like, they kind of have to be ripped over from something else.
Yeah, at this point, if there's no X-Men, I'm going to be disappointed. And I love the show, but I'm at the point now where I need the X-Men to, or at least, a breadcrumb, a seed to be planted for mutants to come out of it. And I'm with you. I don't know if this is what you're saying, Jeff, but do you think Mephisto, like the time jump or loop or whatever from Endgame, that kind of opened up the multiverse, and now Mephisto is a product of that, and he's now going through this? I feel like this is the introducing Mephisto comic book that you would see, and then the comic book where Mephisto's really cooking is going to be the Doctor Strange movie. I think he could be the big bad in Doctor Strange.
They've also said that Nightmare is another one in Doctor Strange as well. We've heard the Grim Reaper teased a little bit. The Grim Reaper, we saw that's another character we could really get into. We saw his helmet featured in the intro to episode 2. He's a character heavily involved with Wanda and Vision. We also know that Catherine Hahn's character, Agnes, which could mean Agatha Harkness, works heavily with Mephisto and clearly has an interest in Wanda's kids. And that is a complete tie-in to past comic books, graphic novels, where it all sort of makes sense that this would tie together, that the kids are kind of the key to everything here. And obviously, well, maybe not for those who don't know, Wanda and Vision's kids have some pretty fantastic powers themselves. Speed and Wiccan, Tommy and Billy, like they are very powerful beings in Marvel as well. So they are sought after by Agnes, by Mephisto. So it all sort of begins to make sense. Like the theories have been fairly on the nose right off the bat from the show. And it, like everything I've kind of read, like I'm like, oh shit. Like I think they kind of nailed this one, right? Like it just kind of makes sense.
I think they just reversed it, right? Because I think the kids in the comic books are made from like shards of Mephisto. Like they're made from like the essence of Mephisto. And I think maybe they're reversing it here. And maybe Wanda was in some way or another sort of tricked into accepting this deal from the devil. And maybe that's going to have something to do with now, like let's say resurrecting Mephisto or bringing Mephisto into this reality. So maybe that's her like her Faustian bargain or whatever you want to call it. Her kind of deal that she made is she's gonna inflict this evil on the world, but she gets to have her old pal Viz in his sweater vests back.
We've seen some comments saying Ralph Fiennes should play Mephisto. I have no problem putting Ralph Fiennes into the market.
The devil.
You're not really going to get me complaining about that whatsoever. So I think that's kind of the big theory that we can talk about off the top is the Quicksilver, is the X-Men thing. And I want to throw in one question that we've got a couple times, and that's about who is the cameo. Was this the cameo that Elizabeth Olsen was talking about? I don't think so either, because I feel like when you tease it as a Luke Skywalker thing, she said in an interview, like there's a Luke Skywalker-esque cameo on this show. I think Sir Patrick Stewart is the one that makes sense.
And then your guys' interview with Vision
Bettany,
too, Bettany, and like how he said it was going to be this huge moment and stuff like that. And I don't know the name of the actor here. I'm going to say he's not on that kind of level. But like Bobby was saying,
it was Ian McKellen, but apparently
Evan Peters series.
Oh, Evan Peters, yeah, but apparently Ian McKellen did a movie with Paul Bettany, so that wouldn't, if it was the same person, they could be talking about two different people. Yeah, I don't know if it lines up. Patrick Stewart just seems like the one, though. I don't know why. It just makes kind of some sense.
And I don't know if they shared any scenes. I think that was the other thing, was whether they actually shared it. It's like we're really going down crazy. But this is why this show is so awesome. It just gets all your brain cooking in all these different ways. But like Robbie said, too, like Elizabeth Olsen grew up a Star Wars fan. She knows like the L word, like Luke. You're throwing Luke around. You're not throwing that around unless it's for a fucking massive, cameo.
I completely agree that they are two different people that they're talking about. I think Elizabeth Olsen, I would agree with you that Patrick Stewart would make the most sense. I think for our interview with Bettany, with what he said, I think that for the most sense would be Doctor Strange, because this is obviously, we're entering the multiverse. We just saw it literally open before our eyes, and that's the gateway. And the one guy whose literal job is protecting our reality, douchebag, is Doctor Strange. So that's the guy who I think that Paul Bettany was talking about.
It makes sense because, they haven't really worked together in those movies. I saw a couple of other people have said Michael Fassbender's Magneto. That would obviously make a little sense because this Pietro has been in those movies with Michael Fassbender's Magneto. And maybe these are the characters that Kevin Feige wants to bring in. He wants to bring in the younger version of these characters. I mean, it would be crazy to have them brought in here, because I will say this, what this would do is, for those who maybe don't think that like these series are going to carry a lot of weight, I've seen people say like, I don't think the series are going to carry as much weight as people think. you introduced the X-Men through this series. That, I mean, what more do you say? Like, these series need to be treated like the movies. And I actually think because of this right here, how do I point? This right here, this guy right here, that pretty much confirms, like, yeah, you can follow the movies, but if you're a Marvel fan, you better watch the shit out of these, because these are some fairly large things that are happening. I don't know. These are pretty big moments.
It really can't be like even understated, like how big of a moment that was too, right? Like, I feel like we're all just kind of like, not only want to say used to it because of the news with Spider-Man 3 and all that. This is a huge fucking moment. We're now like, this is, everything just got busted open right before our eyes. And again, maybe we're desensitized, but it is huge. It is tremendous for the scope of the MCU.
And Robbie said this on my basement a couple weeks ago, like, just think of these, like, it gives Marvel such an easy way to like pivot where they don't have to have full movies to have, play a story out. This could be almost like a little mini comic book series. And this is the WandaVision thing that obviously changed the entire universe as we know it, but it doesn't have to be a movie, or you can kind of spread it out and slowly play it instead of having to go through you guys are the fucking movie guys, right? There's different ways that a movie works instead of a TV show. And I just love that they now have both these things at their disposal, and they just throw it online and you get it slowly but surely over, a couple months. So I cannot be happier right now with the way everything's going. Oh, man. Are you guys huge X-Men guys? Because that was my number one growing up. The books I read, the cartoon, obviously, series, even the early movies were pretty good until they kind of went down. But that was my number one growing up by far.
Oh yeah, there was peaks and valleys for X-Men. I agree. In the arcade game X-Men, do you remember that one? Oh,
I just beat that with Sienna this week for the first time. I finally beat that in The Simpsons. I scratched that itch after years of waiting.
I'm with you.
So we'll kind of leave it at that, because we'll do this again next week. There's not much more we can say other than speculation, but it is, I think, desensitized is a funny word to use, because think about someone saying that like 5 years ago before Disney got the Fox properties. Like, that would be the most batshit crazy thing to ever hear. But now that we have it, it's like we've created so many theories and possibilities in our head, and we saw Endgame, and now it's like, yeah, that'd be cool. But like, tell someone that 3 or 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and you'd be like, that's insane. They're going to bring another Quicksilver. So yeah, here we are with X-Men. So we'll get to that when we get more.
I wanted to bring up one point from this show that I feel like we kind of got glossed over anyway. It's the scene where Rambo gets mentioned. It gets mentioned Captain Marvel to Monica Rambeau, and she gets kind of like standoffish a little bit. And I have a theory. I'm not sure if it's entirely true. Do you think that maybe her mom's contact with Captain Marvel, do you think that that's possibly what gave her cancer? Like that sort of interaction with the Mind Stone and that radiation, the cosmic radiation, all that shit that comes off of it. Maybe she now hates Captain Marvel because of that.
That I would completely believe that theory. Yeah, that would make sense.
The radiation then just or ditching and just like never returning, and you're being like, "Fuck this chick, man."
That's it.
So some rumored big bads could potentially be, as we see here, Grim Reaper. We saw Grim Reaper's helmet tease. I think that's fairly obvious. We'll see Grim Reaper in some form at some point. Also, we mentioned the kids already. We mentioned Agatha Harkness potentially being Agatha Catherine Hahn's character. She's mentioned Ralph. Many people think the husband Ralph she mentions will be Mephisto. Also, I saw a couple videos and comments today about she's always got a drink, and that maybe her drink is how she's able to kind of connect with Wanda, because she has a scene where she's like, "You want to do that again off the top?" Like she's acting, and like they cut the middle of the scene. That was from the beginning of the episode. So obviously she is a little more aware than anybody else, even as much as Vision.
I also saw someone say that she's always interacting with animals. The lobster's the first episode, the rabbit, the dog this episode. So she always has an animal with her as well. So whether that's Mephisto or some other, thing my brain can't compute.
Yeah, there was a good comment. Man, I'm not going to be able to go back and find it. But somebody did say, like, maybe Mephisto is the animal every episode. So we'll see. I mean, Mephisto could be bringing people back through souls. We know Wanda has said it isn't her being manipulated. She isn't aware of how things are happening. She even Vision wonders about kids. She says she doesn't truly know. We see her at one point when a drone confronts her from S.W.O.R.D. She leaves the Hex, and we're going to talk about Hexes next, because I think the Hexes are fairly important in all of this. She leaves the Hex, which very cool scene. She threatens Hayward, who has to be a bad guy, right? The director of S.W.O.R.D has to be like, he's like mean guy, bad guy should be his fucking name. Like that's just like, he just screams like double cross people, has to have some sort of Hydra thing going on. And then she has the guns turn on him as she leaves. And then puts her spin on the hex. That's the thing that kind of gave it away for me. And I saw a couple pieces saying that, like, notice how when she manipulates the soldiers, their eyes are red, but nobody's eyes are red in the show. Like inside Westview, nobody's eyes are red. And then she manipulates the hex. So there's got to be maybe some deal here. Maybe she didn't build it. I saw a comment in here. Some people have even suggested in our comment section that might not even be Wanda, like a different version of Wanda. But that kind of brings to the idea of these hexes. We've seen hexes before. Hexes are a way to jump through things for Guardians of the Galaxy, jump through parts of space. We saw hexes right here. This is with S.W.O.R.D, with Nick Fury at the end of Far From Home. And then we know the town is a hex. Every intro has a hex. So clearly that's something. And that has to be maybe a vessel or a portal or a way that they come in from different dimensions. Like we've seen the portals, but now they're like the hexes are maybe a different way to bring people in from other realities and dimensions and universes.
No, completely agree. There's obviously a big significance to that, as just as far as I would say universal travel, like you were saying before with Guardians of the Galaxy, you can see it right there. And just as far as reality bending in general, because that obviously is altering space-time when they do the hex travel. So there's definitely bigger significance there than maybe we even know, but I'm assuming we're going to see soon.
Well, and Hexagon, Six Sides, Mephisto, Devil. I mean, you're going to get all that kind of stuff. And I saw Mike Sullivan actually hit me up on Twitter about this, that Agent Hayward has a couple hexagons in his office, and you can kind of like see hexagons and everything if you want to, but usually where there's smoke, there's fire. At least with this show, it's just fucking fires everywhere in this show. Everything that has the littlest bit of smoke is a fucking five alarm fire. It's crazy.
I love that comment by Keena Wiener. That's great because she is Magneto's kid, technically speaking, in the comics, right?
Yeah, she was. I love that comment because the turning of the weapons is a very Magneto thing, and maybe that's how they. It's. I hate the word retcon. I hate it, so I'm not going to use it. But maybe that's how they explain. Maybe in this way, and somebody actually used recast in the chat, like that Magneto ties into being her dad. There's so many opportunities and possibilities here, and we know that this is potentially. I've even seen Spider-Man tease too, like. We know the Spider-Man 3 is going to be the Spider-Verse. So the multiverse is going to explode very soon if it hasn't already. I mean, again, we have the X-Men in here. It's like, what more can you expect? How did Vision come back? Did Vision come back again through Mephisto? I think that all, again, sort of makes sense. Leave any other theories you have in the chat here. If we missed any, we'll try to get to them. We'll wrap up here in a minute. We're trying to make these short and sweet, just a little palate cleanse after the episode. I also noticed that we saw some people talk about the mailman. The mailman may not have been on the boards of all the people in the town. The mailman seems to be making bizarre comments. Like he could be something as well. I know I watched a video today. I want to say Emergency Awesome or Heavy Spoilers. Someone said it where they're mentioning how the mailman might be the witness protection that they were talking about, witness protection program. They were talking about the beginning of the first episode that they went into Westview. So a lot of options there. A lot of options there. It's a crazy and cool show, and I think the big thing for me, how great is Paul Bettany's hair? Paul Bettany's hair is great in this show. Every decade they put Paul Bettany's hair in.
Phenomenal.
It's awesome.
Makes me jealous.
Again, so many different. I like this one too. Didn't see that coming.
You didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Very cool. But I think the big thing is that we don't know. Like, obviously, we loved Infinity War and Endgame, but with the snap, with the Infinity Stones, there was only so many places you could go, right? Like we knew how it was going to play out. Like, they were going to probably stray maybe a little from the comics and the material, but they weren't going to go that far off base. So, like, yeah, we were excited, and the portals thing blew our minds, but you didn't totally know. This is different because this feels like, could be Mephisto, and a lot of the theories line up and it makes sense. But the X-Men thing, like I have no idea. I truly don't know. And I think that's what makes it so great is that they're doing this in a mysterious kind of eerie way, and they're revealing and keeping secrets from you that make it intriguing, that you almost can't predict. And I think that's kind of the big thing for the MCU going forward is we've said it, be weird, be mysterious, and keep us guessing, right? Like that's what we want. We want to guess.
Be weird.
I'm sorry, KenJac. It's up to us. If you have any friends that bailed on this, the first 2 episodes, you got to get them back in because they're going to have no fucking clue what's going on whenever they get back in, whether it's, Falcon the Winter Soldier or the next movie, Black Widow, the one might be all right because that was, done beforehand and it's a flashback. But there's so much shit that's going to all start from here. And I don't even know where to go from here. It's fucking awesome. Awesome. Kevin Feige. Goddamn, man. Goddamn.
Completely agree. Completely agree, Clem. You really just have to, get all those friends that just aren't into the slow burns back in, because it's like that guy who just put up the comment. There is incentive and there is payoffs. There's thing that's like the stuff where like if you're paying attention and you're really like honing in on this stuff, you're getting that great payoff later on. I'm assuming by the time we get to this end of this series, we're going to get an even bigger one, like something that we can't even conceptualize just yet. It's awesome. It's weird. It's different. I love that. Marvel has been so, I think, not even necessarily interrupt, but they've been very single-minded for a long time, and getting out of their comfort zone and doing weird shit is so cool to me. And I love that about the show.
There's somebody who's living under a rock who's a Marvel fan who's going to pop up whenever all these are out, and he's going to binge them, or he or she's going to binge them, and they're going to have the best time. Because I will say, this would have been a fun binge. Like, I like the week-to-week release because it allows us to do these theories and breakdowns, but the binge of this will be neat, going back to back and being like, what the fuck is happening, and having it all revealed slowly. So next week we'll do this again. We can maybe tweak the format a little bit, do more of a walkthrough, but I think Easter eggs and theories are what we want to throw out there. We'll change it week to week depending on what's going on. So let us know what else you want to see. We'll keep these 30 minutes. We'll do them on Fridays. They'll evolve over time. Here's the thing. Star Wars and Marvel come out with a lot of fucking shows. There's a lot of shows, so it's hard to do all these very thorough. This is the way we're going to do it, I think. This is going to be up on YouTube if you want to watch it. Robbie will be back next week, and he won't be in a West Virginia hotel. So I imagine his internet will be much better. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll talk to you next week.